Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining this week's Tips and Tricks webinar, our first official Thursday installment. We'll be at this time moving forward. So I'll again reiterate that in the invites, everybody remembers it was formerly Fridays. Today's topic is using the Checkpoint Threat API utilities. Please use the Q&A chat if you have any questions during the webinar. Our presenter today is an SE out of Maryland, Steve Grimes. Steve, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. As Rob said, we're going to cover the new Python 3 utility for using our Threat API. We had an overview of this API last December, a really good detailed overview of the API. The interesting thing about this new utility is that you don't have to understand all the complex things about the structure and mechanics of the API to actually use the API. So this API, just for a short review, is a cloud service that provides antivirus scanning, conversion of all types of documents to high fidelity PDFs to clean out any active content. It also provides sandboxing and decisions around those emulations to you. And it exists as a service at the URL that's listed here on the page. And all of this is described on our support site as a Threat Prevention API 1.0 reference guide. So you can go to the support site and read about the nature of all these requests and the responses that come back through this Python utility that we're going to cover. A couple of use cases here to try to understand how this is being used by customers right now. I worked with a Northern Virginia organization not too many months ago that was receiving documents from its partners, all kinds of documents that it needed to be converted to PDFs. It had a really strict security policy around receiving any document with any active content. And they're submitting documents to this service and moving them through a series of logic into their internal processes. There's also a U.S. financial organization, pretty close here in central Maryland, that receives all kinds of files from its partners via API connections that are sending those files to AV examination and emulation before internal distribution again. So these two organizations have a very high security posture and wanted all of those documents and files examined before they were used internally. Now, to use this API, you can use it in a couple of different ways. Right now, any of your gateways that are appliance gateways or cloud gateways have a quota for emulations per month, and it's based on the size of the gateway. And you can contact your local account team to get that quota. This quota is only for emulation. So if you want to send files up to this service for AV verdicts or conversion to PDF, you're basically free to do that. The quota, if you want to purchase a separate quota, if you're going to have lots and lots of additional emulations over and above what your gateways have, there are increments that you can purchase. So it's a fairly straightforward situation for usage. All right, so let's think for a moment. If we're going to actually install a central instance that's useful for automating any of this, how we're going to put this together. First, we have to transfer files to some sort of an instance. It could be Linux or Windows, whatever you like. Obviously, the Python 3 is going to work in most any operating system that operates under those Python 3 standards. And then with our utility, we're going to perform the work. The utility will send the files up for emulation conversion. It'll generate the reports, and this utility then is able to pull those down, the actual converted documents, as well as all the reports in various formats that we'll see in just a minute. And then in your environment, in the customer environment, those files and reports need to be distributed to their business purpose. So files need to be sent to end destinations, reports need to be analyzed by somebody in security or IT operations. So there's some work to be done, some logic to be constructed in addition to the checkpoint Python utility that we're going to see. So the major steps that we're concerned with installing this utility is that we want to create the environment that we need in the Linux side. We've got to make sure that we've got a good up-to-date Python 3. We're going to create a service account, set up all of the scripts and logic that we outlined in the last page. One of the critical steps I want to point out here is in the middle of the page. When you actually install this Python utility, it calls for you to use a setup.py. And that's not a good practice because it's going to put this set of libraries into the global libraries. So my advice is to use an installation that uses the virtual environment that you're using. And I give an example here with pip environment, where you can install with any of the virtual environment tools, this Python utility. And then you've got to create scripts in order to perform the ingest and distribution, and then, possibly create cron tabs. Although this script, the utility that we're going to review, actually has some facilities that allow you to cycle through directories and accomplish things. So that's the only eye chart I'm going to show you. So we're going to take a look at this script in just a minute, but what we're going to see when we run it is that when we run it, it actually performs all the work that was reviewed around the API mechanics last December. It's going to send the files up to the service. It's going to keep querying the service to see if the proceeds and reports are ready. And then it's going to give you an indication at the end about what's happened. And the end results will be in directories that you define. So it's pretty straightforward operation. And again, it takes care of all those mechanics that were reviewed last December. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at how we go get this and how we run it. Let me display my desktop here. Let's go first to a location. I just want to show this location, everybody. There's a site that we maintain called developer.checkpoint.com, and we've got all sorts of useful functionality and articles here for app developers and DevSecOps people, IT security people. But we can go here to look for the Threat Prevention API, and you can see I've been rehearsing here for a couple of days, and you'll find the Threat API right here, and it will take you to our GitHub site. And once you come to our GitHub site, you can see the instructions for actually loading this on your instance, whether it's a Linux or a Windows instance with Git. And once you load it on Git, the pertinent portion is right here under the Python 3 directory. And here under the Python 3 directory, you have usage instructions. So it gives you example command lines, but most importantly, it gives you the command line parameters to run this. So let's take a look at these instructions. First of all, to get help, we just have a command. We have a Python command to call --help, and it actually gives you all this information. And then the options tell you the command line arguments for either sending it to the cloud, or you can send it to a local appliance. You can actually have parameters here for threat extraction to create PDFs versus emulation. I'm sorry, extraction is text. Emulation is one of these two parameters. And then you've got sub-options under that to either convert or clean documents that you convert. And then we have a bunch of report options concerned with the operations above. So you can call for PDF, summary, or XML reports. So let's take a look at how this all comes together once you clone this Git collection here. And let's go to an Ubuntu instance here and take a look at a simple installation here. So what I've done here is that I've cloned that GitHub collection, and you see the actual distribution directories up here on the top. And then I have some input and some output directories that I have created for my environment. They could be anywhere on this or any resource that's actually linked to this instance. And what I've done basically then is created a couple of scripts here, very simple scripts, one for threat emulation and one for converting documents for threat extraction. So let's take a look at the one for threat extraction here, and we'll see the parameters that we saw in the previous page. So we see that we're calling that TP underscore API Python. We're calling it with a threat extraction parameter, where we're giving it the key that gives us permission to do that. We're telling it the directory that's the input directory, a reports directory, and then the output, the text folder, is this directory, output text. And when we actually run this, then we'll see some of the activity we saw in one of the last slides. So it's going to offer slides to the actual service. It's going to wait to get a verdict from the service. And when the service has the actual output files, it's going to actually put them in the output directories. So this always goes very quickly when you're rehearsing it, and it goes very slowly when you demonstrate it, of course.
The curse of the live demo, Steve.
That's right. All right, so it gives you a verdict. Now let's go take a look at an example of the output. Let me go down here and get I'm sorry. Here it is. Here it is. Let's go take a look at examples of documents that were just converted to PDFs with all of the active content cleaned out. We have a set of logic that actually takes those documents and PowerPoints and spreadsheets and other types of documents, cleans all the active content out, and actually returns them as the document name .cleaned .docx.pdf. So the file name is in that format. So here's an example of a document that was cleaned and turned into a PDF. And you can see that we maintain all the visual fidelity, the coloring, the graphics that were in, the headers and footers that were in that document. And so all the active content is cleaned out of documents and spreadsheets and PowerPoints and other types of documents. And these can be sent off without worrying about any sort of macros or other active content. So that's the very short demo of this tool. So again, it's a tool that can be used independently of your gateways for other business purposes. And this utility makes it really easy to set up an environment to actually emulate and translate these documents. So Rob, do we have any questions in the chat?
One question was you mentioned earlier the quotas that come with the gateways.
Yeah.
Did you say that the antivirus does not count against the quota, or what does, I guess is more of the question.
Yeah, just the emulations do. We had a long chat with some product people, and we got an answer that just the emulations count against that. So there's actually a matrix that's available internally that shows, based on the gateway size, the number of emulations per month that are allowed under the quota. So in the case of the first use case that we showed a little while ago, where they were just converting documents to PDFs, as an example, that does not count against the quota.
Okay, great. That's good for now, Steve. You want to keep going?
Yeah, so the only other thing I just want to add is that I'm available to help our customers and sales teams if they need to just implement this and talk about all the other, logic and flow around their particular use cases. So this is really all I had to show. The utility makes all of this very easy compared to everything we had to sort of illustrate last December about the API.
And there's script examples you said up on the GitHub or Checkmates community. Is there good resources because obviously this is very powerful and you have a lot of options. So,
Right.
you start from zero.
Yeah, the two places I would go is that there are, obviously the GitHub gives you examples to run this as well as all the parameters. But there are two really interesting discussions on our Checkmates, the community.checkpoint.com, where people are using this and are looking at options for how they actually use it. And they have example parameters and run scripts and that sort of thing. So the two places to go to discuss this would either be your local sales team or the community site where you can go to checkpoints, checkmates, and post information about what you'd like to accomplish and any questions that you've got.
And got a question here. What about reporting? And how do the reports generated? Is something you have to build? Are there canned reports?
Actually, the reports are generated as part of the service. There are three types. There's a summary report. There is an XML report that you can parse in various ways for your purposes. And then there's a summary report, and you can request that in various versions. So, the use cases that I'm familiar with, what they requested was a summary report, and the XML format is very easy to deal with and parse. There are a lot of tools in all of the languages to parse XML, and they just grab specific portions of the XML and compose your own reports if you'd like to.
Real quick here. Nope, I think that covered it from questions. Unless anybody has any else, you can throw it in the chat real quick. But yeah, like Steve said, it's very powerful. There's a lot of resources out there, and we'll have all the links for all of this in the follow-up email. But please talk to your local SE, or you can reach out to me or Steve directly, and we can help answer any questions you have on this. Thank you, Steve, for that content. Our next webinar will be in 2 weeks on October 21st, again, Thursday moving forward. You'll see an invitation for that soon. Let's see, is there anything else? In the YouTube channel, again, it'll be in the follow-up email, but all the recordings will be up on the new YouTube channel. So I have everything up there from 2021. If there's anything you request earlier, please let me know and I'll upload it. I'm going to start, populating the older ones also, but everything from 2021 will be up on the YouTube channel. So, all right, Steve, anything else? Good to go?
Yeah. It's short. The utility makes it easy.
That's fantastic. So thank you, Steve. And everyone, we'll see you back here on our next call. I usually say enjoy your weekend, but I'll say enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye, Steve.